Have you ever noticed how the harder you try to hold on to something, the faster it seems to slip away? The more desperately you chase approval, the more invisible you feel. The more you force relationships, the more distant people become. The more you try to control every outcome, the more anxious and exhausted you grow. And perhaps right now, as you're listening to this, there is something in your life that you're trying to force. Maybe it's success. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's healing. Maybe it's an answer you've been waiting for. Maybe it's a future that refuses to arrive on your schedule. You wake up thinking about it. You go to sleep worrying about it. Your mind runs endless scenarios. What if it doesn't happen? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if I'm running out of time? And before you realize it, your life becomes a battlefield inside your own mind. The ancient Stoics understood this pain. Over 2,000 years ago, they observed something that remains true today. Most human suffering does not come from reality itself. It comes from resistance. It comes from our desperate attempts to control what was never ours to control. It comes from forcing people, forcing outcomes, forcing circumstances, forcing life. The Stoics discovered a different path. A path of calm strength. A path of inner freedom. A path that allows you to move through uncertainty without losing yourself. A path that teaches you how to stop worrying, stop overthinking, and finally experience peace. Because peace does not come when life becomes perfect. Peace comes when you stop fighting reality. And today, we're going to explore ancient Stoic habits that can completely transform the way you experience life. These habits are simple, but their impact is profound. If you truly understand them, you may never look at your worries the same way again. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and join a community dedicated to wisdom, self-mastery, and inner strength. Every week, we share timeless Stoic lessons designed to help you become calmer, stronger, and more resilient in a chaotic world. Now, close the door on distractions. Take a deep breath. And allow these ancient words to reach the part of you that has been carrying too much for too long. One of the greatest illusions of life is the belief that everything depends on us. Think about how much energy you spend trying to control things that are completely outside your power. You worry about what people think. You worry about what might happen tomorrow. You worry about situations that haven't even occurred. You replay conversations from weeks ago. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You try to predict every possible outcome. And yet, despite all this effort, reality continues to unfold according to its own laws. The Stoics taught that freedom begins the moment you recognize the boundary between what you can control and what you cannot. You can control your actions. You can control your character. You can control your effort. You can control your choices. But you cannot control whether others approve of you. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control the opinions of strangers. You cannot control the timing of life. The moment you accept this truth, a tremendous weight begins to fall from your shoulders. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones every day. Now imagine setting it down. That is what happens when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. The burden disappears. The mind becomes lighter. The heart becomes calmer. And suddenly life feels less like a struggle and more like a journey. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that the universe is change. Nothing remains fixed. Everything flows. Everything transforms. Everything passes. The problem is that we often demand permanence from a world designed for change. We want certainty in an uncertain world. We want guarantees where none exist. We want life to obey our plans. And when it doesn't, we suffer. But consider this. Every beautiful chapter of your life arrived unexpectedly. The friendships you treasure. The opportunities that changed you. The moments that made you smile. Many of them were never planned. They emerged naturally. They unfolded in their own time. Life has always known how to move forward without your constant worrying. It has always known how to surprise you. The Stoics understood this. That is why they practiced trust. Not blind optimism. Not passive surrender. but trust in their ability to face whatever came. This is an important distinction. They did not trust that life would be easy. They trusted themselves to handle difficulty. And that trust eliminated much of their fear. Think about it. Most anxiety comes from doubting your ability to cope. You fear future problems because you imagine yourself powerless before them. But look at your life. You have already survived challenges you once thought would destroy you. You have endured heartbreak. You have endured disappointment. You have endured uncertainty. You have endured loss. And somehow, despite everything, you are still here. Stronger than you realize. Wiser than before. More resilient than you know. The Stoics wanted people to remember this. You are far more capable than your worries suggest. The mind often tells stories. It predicts disaster. It imagines failure. It magnifies threats. But reality is usually less frightening than imagination. Many of the things you worry about never happen. And the things that do happen are often manageable once they arrive. Worry creates a double burden. First, you suffer in imagination. Then you suffer in reality if the event actually occurs. The Stoics saw the foolishness in this. Why suffer twice? Why torture yourself over possibilities? Why sacrifice today's peace for tomorrow's uncertainty? The present moment is where life exists. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Now. Yet most people rarely live here. Their bodies are in the present. Their minds are somewhere else. Their thoughts are trapped in regrets about the past or fears about the future. And as a result, they miss the only moment they truly possess. This one. Right now. As you listen to these words, notice your breathing. Notice the sound around you. Notice that in this exact moment, you are okay. Not next week. Not next month. Not after everything gets fixed. Now. The Stoics practiced returning to the present again and again. Because they knew the present is where peace lives. The future is uncertainty. The past is memory. But the present is reality. And reality is often far gentler than the frightening stories we create inside our minds. Imagine how different your life would feel if you stopped carrying tomorrow before it arrived. Imagine waking up without immediately reaching for your worries. Imagine trusting that whatever comes, you will meet it with courage. Imagine no longer forcing people to understand you. No longer forcing success to happen overnight. No longer forcing answers that need time to reveal themselves. Imagine simply doing your best and allowing life to unfold. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. That is strength. That is Stoicism. And perhaps the greatest lesson the Stoics ever taught is this. Life is not asking you to control everything. Life is asking you to control yourself. And once you master that, everything changes. There is a silent tragedy happening in the lives of millions of people. They are physically alive, but mentally absent. Their bodies move through the day, but their minds are trapped somewhere else. Always worrying. Always waiting. Always chasing. Always forcing. They tell themselves, I'll finally be happy when I get the promotion. When I find the relationship. When I earn more money. When my problems disappear. When life becomes easier. But the destination keeps moving. The finish line keeps shifting. And peace remains just out of reach. Years pass. Dreams change. Circumstances change. People come and go. And yet the mind continues searching for a future moment that will supposedly bring fulfillment. The Stoics saw through this illusion. They understood that peace is not a destination. It is a way of traveling. It is not something you find someday. It is something you practice today. Right now. In this ordinary moment. Because if you cannot be at peace while climbing the mountain, you will not be at peace when you reach the top. The anxious mind always finds another reason to worry. Another problem to solve. Another outcome to control. Another fear to obsess over. This is why some people achieve everything they once dreamed about and still feel empty. Nothing outside them changed what was happening inside them. And Stoicism begins with mastering what happens inside. Imagine standing beside a river. You watch the water flow. You do not scream at it to move faster. You do not demand it flow backward. You do not become angry because it refuses to stop. You simply observe. You accept its nature. Life is very similar. Yet we spend so much time arguing with reality. We become upset that people behave according to their nature. We become frustrated that difficulties exist. We become angry that life is uncertain. We fight reality. And reality always wins. The Stoics knew that acceptance is not defeat. Acceptance is seeing clearly. Acceptance is understanding what is. Not what should be. Not what could be. Not what you wish it were. But what actually exists. And once you see reality clearly, you gain the power to respond wisely. Many people mistake acceptance for weakness. They think accepting reality means giving up. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Acceptance is the foundation of effective action. Because you cannot solve a problem you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot navigate reality while denying it. You cannot move forward while fighting what already exists. The strongest people are often the most accepting. Not because they are passive, but because they waste no energy arguing with facts. They conserve their strength for what can actually be changed. Think about how much energy worry consumes. Hours, days, months, sometimes years. And what does it produce? Rarely solutions. Mostly exhaustion. The Stoics wanted us to understand that worry feels productive, but usually accomplishes nothing. The mind convinces us that if we worry enough, we can prevent bad things from happening. But life does not work that way. Worry cannot control the future. It only steals the present. It drains today's joy. It clouds today's opportunities. It robs today's peace. Imagine receiving a beautiful gift every morning. A gift called today. Now imagine spending the entire day worrying about tomorrow. You never open the gift. You never enjoy it. You never appreciate it. That is what overthinking does. It blinds us to the richness of the present moment. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that each day could be his last. Not because he was pessimistic. Because he wanted to remain awake. Because awareness of life's fragility creates gratitude. When you truly understand that life is temporary, many worries suddenly seem small. The argument that kept you awake. The opinion that wounded your pride. The mistake that embarrassed you. The outcome you desperately wanted. Viewed from the perspective of mortality, these things begin to lose their power. One day, all of us will leave this world. Every fear. Every anxiety. Every unfinished task. Every stressful situation. It will all pass. The Stoics used this realization not to become depressed but to become free. Free from unnecessary worry. Free from trivial concerns. Free from the endless mental noise that prevents us from living fully. And perhaps there is something you need to hear today. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need all the answers. You do not need to know exactly how the future will unfold. You simply need to take the next step. The mind wants certainty. Life offers movement. The mind wants guarantees. Life offers possibilities. The mind wants control. Life offers growth. And growth often requires uncertainty. Every meaningful chapter of your life began with uncertainty. You didn't know how it would turn out. You didn't know where the road would lead. Yet somehow you moved forward. And each step revealed the next. That is how life works. Not through complete certainty, but through courage. The courage to move forward despite not knowing everything. The courage to trust the process. The courage to release the need to force outcomes. There is a beautiful lesson hidden in nature. A tree does not force itself to grow overnight. It does not panic because it isn't taller today. It simply continues growing. Day after day. Season after season. Storm after storm. Patiently. Quietly. Naturally. And eventually it becomes strong. Human beings often forget this wisdom. We demand immediate results. Immediate success. Immediate healing. Immediate answers. Immediate transformation. But nature teaches patience. The Stoics learned from nature. They understood that some things require time. Seeds require time. Wisdom requires time. Healing requires time. Character requires time. Trying to force these processes often delays them. Imagine trying to pull a flower from the soil because you want it to bloom faster. You would destroy it. Yet many people do this to themselves. They constantly pressure themselves, criticize themselves, rush themselves, judge themselves, and then wonder why they feel exhausted. The Stoic path is different. It is built upon steady effort, consistent action, patient growth, trust in the process, not frantic desperation, not endless overthinking, not emotional chaos. There is immense power in calm persistence. A river carves through stone not because of force, but because of consistency. Likewise, your life changes through daily choices. Small choices. Quiet choices. Choices repeated over time. Not dramatic moments of panic. Not bursts of anxiety. Not endless worrying. The world tells you to rush. Stoicism tells you to endure. The world tells you to chase. Stoicism tells you to cultivate. The world tells you to force. Stoicism tells you to align. And when you align yourself with reality instead of fighting it, something remarkable happens. The tension begins to disappear. The desperation begins to fade. The mind becomes quieter. The heart becomes lighter. You stop feeling as though you must carry the entire universe on your shoulders. Because you finally realize something liberating. You were never meant to. You were only meant to carry your own character, your own actions, your own choices. Everything else belongs to life. Everything else belongs to time. Everything else belongs to fate. And perhaps the reason you are exhausted is not because life is too difficult. Perhaps it is because you have been trying to carry things that were never yours to carry. The opinions of others. The future. The past. The expectations of society. The outcomes of circumstances. The behavior of people. The timing of events. Put those burdens down. They were never yours. Your responsibility is much simpler. Be kind. Be courageous. Be disciplined. Be patient. Do your best. And then release the rest. Because the moment you stop forcing life, life often begins to flow in ways you never expected. The opportunities arrive. The lessons reveal themselves. The healing begins. The clarity emerges. Not because you controlled everything, but because you finally stopped standing in your own way. And that may be one of the greatest secrets of Stoicism. Peace is not found by controlling life. Peace is found by mastering yourself while life unfolds. There comes a moment in every person's life when they become tired. Not physically tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. But a deeper exhaustion. The exhaustion that comes from carrying invisible burdens for far too long. The exhaustion of pretending to be strong when you're falling apart inside. The exhaustion of worrying about everything and controlling nothing. The exhaustion of fighting battles that exist only in your imagination. Perhaps you know this feeling. Perhaps you've experienced those nights when your body is begging for rest, but your mind refuses to be quiet. You replay mistakes. You revisit old wounds. You imagine future disasters. Hours pass. The room is silent. Yet inside your head, a storm is raging. And the painful part is that nobody else sees it. Nobody sees the weight you're carrying. Nobody sees the fear. Nobody sees the endless mental struggle. But the Stoics understood. Because human nature has not changed. 2,000 years ago, people feared the future just as they do today. They worried. They doubted. They suffered. And the Stoics discovered something extraordinary. The mind becomes stronger the moment it stops believing every thought it produces. Think about that. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear deserves your belief. Not every worry deserves your energy. Yet most people treat every thought as truth. A fearful thought appears. They believe it. An anxious scenario appears. They believe it. A self-critical voice emerges. They believe it. and slowly, without realizing it, they become prisoners of their own minds. But Stoicism teaches a different way. A thought is merely a thought. Nothing more. It is not reality. It is not prophecy. It is not destiny. It is simply a mental event. And you have the power to examine it before accepting it. Imagine standing at the entrance of your home. Would you allow every stranger who walks by to enter? Of course not. Yet many people allow every negative thought unrestricted access to their minds. Every fear enters. Every doubt enters. Every insecurity enters. And soon the mind becomes crowded with noise. The Stoics practice guarding their inner world. They question their thoughts. They challenge their fears. They examine their assumptions. Because they understood that peace begins with mental discipline. One fearful thought can ruin an entire day if left unchallenged. One moment of perspective can restore an entire week. This is why Marcus Aurelius constantly wrote in his journal. He wasn't writing for fame. He wasn't writing for history. He was reminding himself of truth. Again and again. Because even wise people forget. Even strong people struggle. Even philosophers worry. The difference is that they return to wisdom. Over and over again. And perhaps that is what you need today. Not perfection. Not complete freedom from worry. Not instant enlightenment. Just a return. A return to clarity. A return to perspective. A return to the present moment. Because every time anxiety pulls you into the future, you can return. Every time regret drags you into the past, you can return. Every time fear tries to convince you that you're powerless, you can return. You can come back to what is real. This breath. This moment. This opportunity to begin again. Life is not one in a single dramatic moment. It is one in thousands of small returns. Small acts of courage. Small acts of patience. Small acts of discipline. The world celebrates dramatic transformations. Stoicism celebrates steady progress. The world wants overnight success. Stoicism teaches lifelong growth. The world demands perfection. Stoicism teaches resilience. And resilience is one of the most beautiful qualities a human being can possess. Because resilience says, I may fall, but I will rise. I may struggle, but I will continue. I may suffer, but I will endure. I may face uncertainty, but I will not surrender my peace. That kind of strength cannot be purchased. It cannot be inherited. It cannot be given. It must be cultivated. And every challenge you face is helping cultivate it. Even the difficulties you wish would disappear. Even the obstacles you never asked for. Even the painful seasons you desperately want to end. The Stoics believe that adversity reveals character. Not because suffering is pleasant, but because hardship exposes what comfort often hides. When everything is easy, anyone can appear strong. When life becomes difficult, true character emerges. And perhaps one day you will look back on this season of your life and realize something remarkable. The thing you thought was breaking you was actually building you. The uncertainty taught you trust. The waiting taught you patience. The loss taught you gratitude. The struggle taught you resilience. The silence taught you self-reliance. The pain taught you wisdom. Life often teaches through experiences we would never voluntarily choose. Yet those experiences become our greatest teachers. This is why Stoics did not ask for easy lives. They asked for strong minds. Because a strong mind can endure almost anything. A strong mind can remain calm when circumstances are chaotic. A strong mind can find gratitude in difficulty. A strong mind can continue moving forward despite fear. And most importantly, a strong mind understands that peace comes from within. Not from possessions. Not from status. Not from approval. Not from perfect circumstances. From within. The world may take many things from you. It may take opportunities. It may take relationships. It may take comfort. It may take certainty. But nobody can take your character without your permission. Nobody can take your integrity. Nobody can take your courage. Nobody can take your wisdom. Nobody can take your ability to choose your response. And that is where true freedom lives. Not in controlling the world, but in mastering yourself. As we come toward the end of this journey together, I want you to remember something. Whatever you're worried about right now, whatever keeps you awake at night, whatever burden you have been carrying, you do not have to carry it alone. You do not have to solve your entire future today. You do not have to force life. You do not have to know every answer. You only need to take the next step. Trust yourself. Trust your ability to adapt. Trust your ability to endure. Trust your ability to grow. Because you have survived every difficult day that brought you here. And there is every reason to believe you will survive what comes next. The storm in your mind does not have to become your identity. The worries do not define you. The fears do not define you. The doubts do not define you. What defines you is how you rise above them. What defines you is your courage, your character, your persistence, your willingness to keep moving forward. And that is the Stoic way. A quiet strength, a calm heart, a disciplined mind, a peaceful soul. If this message resonated with you, if these Stoic lessons brought even a little clarity to your mind today, make sure you subscribe to the channel and become part of this growing community of people dedicated to wisdom, self-mastery, and inner peace. Every subscription helps us continue sharing timeless Stoic teachings that can transform lives and strengthen minds in a world filled with noise and distraction. Leave a comment below and share which lesson spoke to you the most. And remember this as you leave today. Stop forcing. Stop chasing. Stop worrying about what you cannot control. Life unfolds one moment at a time. Meet it with patience. Meet it with courage. Meet it with wisdom. And above all, meet it with peace. Until next time, stay strong, stay calm, and keep walking the Stoic path.